All right, everybody. Looks like it's time to get started. Welcome to the guild meeting. Nice to see everybody. Man, beautiful weather out there, huh? Yesterday was my wife and I's 25th wedding anniversary, and we got married on an absolutely gorgeous day. And my wife texted me and said that yesterday was almost as pretty as the day we got married. So it's been beautiful weather out there. Man, 25 years, she gets the Sainthood Award, that's for sure. That's for sure. Welcome to everybody. Do we have any first-time new guests, first time you've been here today? Awesome. Welcome to the Guild. Thank you for coming. Any new? Yeah, raise your hand there. Next we'll get you to come up and give your full resume. Any first-time members? Anybody just joined for the first time tonight? Awesome. Congrats. Glad to have you in the Guild. I think you'll find it to be great, like we all do. So we're going to run through. Welcome to all those online as well. So thank you all for joining in, whether you're there with us on Facebook or YouTube. So you guys know me well enough now. I like to keep things moving. So let's go. First thing on the agenda. You all probably know this, but we got to shop. So great news. After the last couple of meetings, I was talking about things falling through, and so it's really nice to say we've already started. Chuck's already been putting things out. We've had some people out there doing demolition. So if you haven't checked it out, it's at 17th and Washington, which is one block off of Broadway. It's a little bit southwest of the Kaufman Center. So it's a wonderful location. I was talking to Joe. He went and checked it out, and pleasant surprise. It's a nice place. I think hopefully everyone will think that as well. So really, really excited about our new location. And we'll talk about this, not to take Chris's thunder, but when we do our Christmas dinner, which will be next month, our intention is to have it in the new location. So that'll be a great incentive for everyone to come out and just take a look, and you can kind of dream about what the space is going to look like when we move in February. And I wanted to also say thank you to a lot of the people that did a ton of work in trying to find the new place, Ron Hall especially. So big thanks to Ron. Chuck's been involved in a lot. You know, Gary Melke has done a ton over the last year. I probably am leaving out people that have put a heck of a lot of work into it, but I wanted to say thank you. People have done a lot more work than me, believe me, because I'm not always able to do as much as everyone else. So, or willing, I guess that would be a part of it too. So people have really just jumped in and worked really hard, and I appreciate it. So running down the list, is Ron here tonight? I didn't see. Yeah, Ron, do you have anything else to report? Come on up.
Evening all. Just a couple of quick things. In the newsletter, and we also sent out a thing earlier this week about on Sign Up Genius about signing up for a committee to do some signage for the new building. If you've been over there, we have exposure on Broadway, and we want to try and do something that's nice if we can come up with something good. The committee filled out pretty quick, and we are going to meet that first Tuesday in December. And I think that's the second or third, something like that. It'll be the first Tuesday. And what we'll do, excuse me. And anyway, the committee filled out pretty quickly. But what I'd like to do is, if anybody would like to participate on that, and basically this is a clean slate. We've never had signage before of any degree. So you're going to be doing everything from budgets to city permits to costs to everything else. but we could probably take 2 or 3 more people on the committee to get started. And if you'd like to do that, stop back and see me during the intermission or sometime this evening, and we'll get you on that committee and make you part of the group. So that's really all I had, unless anybody had any quick questions. Cool.
Thank you, Ron. And again, I appreciate all the work you've been doing. David Roth, anything? Nothing to report from David. Craig, is Craig here tonight? Haven't seen Craig, so nothing for him. John Steyer, any continuing to pay the bills and nervous about the new place? I know that, like we all are. But Chuck, you have anything to discuss? And I know you look like you got some wood back there that you're trying to find a home for. Dowels. And so just so you all can hear, keep your eyes out. Chuck's going to be, from time to time, be looking for people to come down and help like he did, I think earlier, was it last Friday? There was a group that went down and did some demolition. There'll be time to time things like that. And thank you all I went down there and there was a ton of people working, so thank you all for joining up. Brian Rohrball, Communications. Haven't seen Brian tonight. Okay, good. All right. Don Steele, a librarian, he has magazines for sale. I don't see him over there, but we always are trying to, he's over on that. He changed locations on me. Man, I need to. Awesome. Could everybody hear that? Good deal. Well, if for those of you online, if you were here, you would hear that we're raffling off 2 plans from Tom McLaughlin, Epic Woodworking. And if you win that raffle, then you would be able to go to Don, and he'll hook you up with the plan of your choice of the Tom McLaughlin's plans. So Tom is doing our program tonight. So just a little bit of a reminder, continue to check us out on Facebook or Instagram, join in. I know that I think Alex, I just followed you this week, so I like to see the other Woodworkers Guild members out there. Kind of nice to see what people are working on or not working on. Let's see, if you haven't checked out the YouTube channel, please do. We are, I don't know how many subscribers we're up. I know last month we're probably up to over 400 now. So there's videos of our meetings, there's videos of our skill builders, there's videos of the podcasts we've done in the past. There's a lot of great content, whether it's recent or something from the last 3 or 4 years ago. There's always some good stuff to check out, and definitely like it and subscribe. Chris, anything about events or AV? I know it's a hectic time for you right now.
Events, yes. The Christmas dinner's coming up. I'm going to be getting the information for Sign Up Genius out this week. It will be at the new shop, and Brancato's is catering it. Just signed the contract with them today. Coming up, got the information for 2024, fall of 2024. Lee Nielsen's coming back. So they're really excited to see our new shop, and we're going to try to see if we can work some stuff out that they can do the presentation for the monthly meeting. We might do some rearranging for their schedule, but that's still a ways out. But we're working on with them that Lee Nielsen's real excited to see our new shop and come back. So I'm excited to get them back here too. For AV, for the new shop, we're going to be having an AV booth, so we're going to get some stuff ironed out. Some difficulties tonight, so guys, apologize for cameras tonight and online, but we're working it out with the Zoom call and everything else. So still looking for help with AV, especially tonight, guys, with the Zoom call. When Tom's on, if you have a question, please, there's gonna be microphones around. Get a microphone for that question section.
All right, thank you, Chris. Jim Berard, come on up. You may have some announcements. Yeah. I love a guy who can clap for himself.
Okay, announcement number one. The point of sale device that we have here at the Guild is no longer supported by PayPal, and I cannot take your credit cards, but I will take cash or check. That's announcement one. Announcement two is we were intending to start the renewal email campaign this evening, but as I went through a test effort, we used to be able to utilize PayPal and check out as a guest, use whatever credit card you wanted, and as best as I can tell, they no longer allow that activity. They are forcing individuals to create an account. So I'm not going to send out the renewal email until I straighten that out with probably another payment provider like Stripe. So I may send out a note that says, hey, you'll get a note in another week, but just be aware of that. No big issue or deal, but that's what's going on. But great to see you all. Look forward to your 2024 renewal. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. It's always nice when you pander for applause and then you get it. Matt, anything to talk about for programs, okay? Safety, Steve here tonight? Don't see Steve. I know we're always looking for more people to join the safety committee, so if you're interested, let us know, let Steve know. I'm sure that there will be lots of interest in that as we move to our new location as well. All of our things that we do involving safety will obviously continue, and the new setup will change some of the things we try to do. Rough to ready, John. Any announcements tonight? No announcements. Dwayne, sponsorship. I know there's some great raffle stuff back there.
Dad. Hello, I'm speaking for the raffle. We have stuff like the librarian said over there. We have plans, so tickets, please. And to Dwayne.
This is the last raffle table of the year. If you don't get it now, tough.
You're out of luck. All right. Thank you, Dwayne and Megan. Kevin, anything to talk about training-wise? Come on up.
Okay, we should have coming, hopefully next week, we'll have dates for basic woodworking. Will be 3 series of it this year, so those will be beginning in January. And also beginning this week will be, next week, or the week after Thanksgiving. Yeah, we'll be doing the annual holiday quickies, and those will be listed too. And that's all I got right now.
Awesome. Thank you, Kevin.
Carol, real quick, interrupt. That's from Chris, from Tom. Bottom text message.
Okay. This is a message from Tom and Chris McLaughlin. Should have thought of this earlier, but we're going to throw in the online course with the plans, so that's even better. So you got to go back there and buy some tickets. So this is a great deal. Online course with the plans. So we appreciate that so much from Tom and Chris. Okay, we're moving along. Skill builders, we have a skill builder, I believe, set up for December, and look for that to come out. And I think that was going to be potentially. Well, Craig, did he confirm? So I haven't seen Craig tonight, but I know Craig was on tap for a couple of months ago about using Etsy for kind of if you have like a little bit of a side business or something like that. So that was kind of really good content. But our skill builders, if you all don't know, it's a once a month, and sometimes we don't have it every single month. But the idea is once a month, on the first Saturday of the month, someone does an hour and a half, 2 hour program that's free for anybody. You don't need to sign up. You don't need to have a green card. You don't even need to be a member. Open to whatever. Just come and watch someone share a skill or a project or something that they're interested in. And if you all have something that you could share, we're always looking for people to add to the skill builder. So something you've been working on, like you really think that the membership would enjoy, please see Kevin or me or any of the leadership, and we could get you set up to do a skill builder. Yes, or Rich, yes, that's right. So right now we're talking about our special interest groups. So our, or we call SIGs, S-I-G. We have 5 of those. So I'm going to just run down through the list. The hand tool SIG meets the 4th Sunday of the month from 2 to 4. Wayne, do you have anything special signed up? So no hand tool SIG coming up. So more to follow. So maybe next month we'll get one scheduled. Wood carving SIG coming up. So bring your, that meets the 4th Tuesday of the month from 6 to 8. So if I see your spieled like always, come. Traditional carving, power carving, any type of carving, folk carving. You bring your projects, enjoy. You got people that can show you what to do, bring you ramp up to another level and skill. Fair enough? Yep. All right, good. Laser engraving skill, or skill, SIG. Sorry, got a lot of stuff on my mind. That meets the 4th Wednesday of the month at 7. So if you're interested in the laser engraver. Scroll saw SIG, 2nd Wednesday of the month at 7. George, anything special? So it's just scheduled. If you want to do scroll sawing, come on out. Scroll sawing and come on out and enjoy that with the group. CNC SIG meets the 3rd Tuesday of the month from 6:30 to 7:30. Come on up, Ed, if you have an announcement.
Yes, the CNC SIG will be meeting next Tuesday night, 6:30 in the library. That will be our final CNC SIG for the year. We are not going to hold one in December. So if you're interested in learning about the CNC, come join us. We'd love to have you.
And I assume the CNC is going to go to the new shop, right, Ed? All right. Well, you know what? I accomplished what I want to do. We got through the agenda pretty quickly. Next month, of course, is our Christmas dinner, and right now we're going to hand it over to our favorite time of the meeting. A lot of times, which is our show and tell. So, Jim, come on up. If you have a show and tell item, go ahead and head over and get to your line and get in line to come up and show. And make sure that you remember that there's a cash prize for all of those that bring show and tell. So when you're done, grab a ticket from Matt here in the front row. And Jim, take it away.
A couple of weeks ago, I was up in South Dakota pheasant hunting. We were a group of us looking for a particular farm, and we stopped at this little burg. There was a gas station and a general store, and we went in and we asked where this place was. And the older guy there looked, and he said, "Nah, I've never heard of that." So we hung around there for a few more minutes, and we were getting ready to leave. And this guy runs out waving his hands as we were leaving, and so we stopped and backed up, and he says, come up, and he says, I just talked to my brother. He says he doesn't know where it is either. It was a while before we could settle down to hunt. Okay, so Kevin, you want to come up and show us what you did?
All right, I got two twin grandsons over in Lee Summit, and the coat rack in their room got destroyed. And the third graders are about 135 pounds each. So they're daddy's 6'3", so they're going to be bruisers. So I'm wrestling with them now, but those days are going to be short. So my wife said, well, we need to make a new coat rack. So I went out of my scrap pile, found a piece of oak, went to the hardware store, got some hooks, put it together, and she came out, and the first one I had on there, she said, that doesn't look straight. So I put the square on it. It was a 1/16 of an inch off. She is so sharp-eyed that I can't hold a candle to that. So that's why I have to use my hand tools. But pretty simple design, pretty simple creation. Now I got to figure out how to hang it on the wall so that those little monsters those little beautiful boys don't tear it up. So I finished it with Odie's oil, sanded it down to 220, and had about a 3.5-hour project in the garage. So that's it. Any questions? It's not for sale.
Thanks, Kevin. All right, who's next? Who's got the chair? Or whatever.
So I brought this project back in the spring when I had gotten it roughly finished, but not finished. And it's a clock. It's a wedding present. The wedding was in June. Here we are. It's November. There's a reception this weekend in Minneapolis, and we're heading up there tomorrow for that. And so let me get these pads out of there. So I had to make a box. It's going to get shipped from Minneapolis to Los Angeles. That's where the wedding was. But the reason I wanted to bring this back, hold on just a second. Is when I brought it here in the spring, it was all rough cherry. Not rough, but you know what I mean. It wasn't, no patina to it yet. And so I let it sit in front of a window all summer and didn't put any finish on it until October. But as I was getting ready to finish it, for whatever reason, I noticed a couple of blemishes in the top, and I accidentally dropped a piece of trim on the drawer front, which was sitting upright on my workbench. So I steamed out the dent as best I could, but it was still there. I could barely see it, but I showed it to my wife, and she said, leave it. I knew if I sanded, I was back to square one in terms of the color, and it wasn't going to match. So I slept on it for a couple of nights and decided I was going to do it anyway, so I sanded it. So I sanded the top, and I sanded the drawer. But in the meantime, I did a little research online, which is where all good things are found, right? And for 20 bucks, I ordered one of these on Amazon. Any ideas? Yeah, it's a UVC. spectrum light. $20 on Amazon. Hung it from a light fixture right over the top of it, and then stood the drawer front up and left it there 24 hours a day for about a week. And it's supposed to be 10 times more radiation than the sun. So they say cherry acquires its about 80% of its final color after about 3 months. So I did the math in my head and decided if I go 24/7, I'm getting the equivalent of like 2 or 3 days of daylight every day. And so within a week, the top and the drawer were back to where the rest of the clock was.
Awesome.
So that's my little tidbit. I was bragging about the fact, well, bragging, that's a little rough, right? I was bragging about the fact in the spring that this thing it all comes apart. And you can finish all the pieces flat, which is my preferred way to work. And then there's 16 screws that hold this thing all together. You don't see any of them. But the beauty of being able to finish things flat is you don't have any nooks and crannies where you're going to get finish that'll accumulate. Now, that was really a good idea until you have it all apart and then you drop things on it or whatever. If it was an airplane, you'd call it hanger rash, I guess. But there are trade-offs, right, to be made. Also used a little bit of dye, black dye. That's my imitation ebony, just as a little bit of an accent around the bottom there. But and I brought one more thing, separate from the clock, to show Jim primarily. A little router plane. I know we're not supposed to probably be advertising products here, but I found this online, and I thought with your love of Harbor Freight, you would get a kick out of this one. This one comes straight from China. $20. Temu. Everybody on to Temu. The Chinese overproduce. They've got warehouses stuffed with stuff over there, and they've found a workaround to the tariff structure, and they ship direct from China. Takes about a week, but there's some fantastic woodworking tools. I wouldn't buy anything with a motor, but for things like this, I think it's probably okay.
There's a dumpster out back.
Okay, a couple of last features on the clock. I've got some Hershey Kisses in here. This is a wedding present, so when Madeline asks Josh what time it is, he'll say it's time for a kiss. And there's the newlyweds.
Okay, any questions about this project? Nice work. I love to see that experimentation with the light. That's awesome. Any questions about that? Yeah.
One real quick one. I really like the dark accent at the bottom. Is that a separate type of wood or is that stain?
No, that's my imitation ebony. It's called dye. It's just black dye on the cherry. Yeah, I just diluted the powdered dye with alcohol and probably put 3 or 4 coats on there. The stuff dries almost instantaneously. And then I used teak oil for the finish and then topped it off with a little Odie's because I know Jim would ask.
Hey, Tom, here's an example. We were talking about before how to use Odie's oil, and here's a prime example. Take a look. Very good. Thank you. Okay. Tim?
I already showed it in the spring. Don't want to double dip.
Hello, Jim and everybody. This is a furniture restoration project, and one of the engineers that I worked with, father bought antique chairs before he was born, so that was like 50 years ago, and kids grew up, and what happens? Furniture gets tore up. And he liked the chairs. I kind of liked the style also, and being an engineer, you got to always find a better way to do things, right? So you analyze, and you can see there's a real weak part in the joint design. So this happened regularly. So I used the tools were available through the Guild and the Guild's training, mortise and tenon joinery, and talked to our experts. John Sloss helped me with learning how to spray paint. Craig Arnold with colors, because you needed to match the colors to the other pieces. Yeah, you could find Odie's oil, and I liked the color that I might have gotten from the Odie's oil, but it wouldn't match the other pieces. So with trans tints and making color boards, and that's from a colorblind guy. But my wife thought the colors matched well enough, so I think they do. And then I added thickness to the back, I added thickness to the width, and I eliminated the notch for where the chair seat comes in to beef up these back legs. Mortise and tenon joinery, how long have we been doing that here? Both in classes, I've taught them, so there were lots of other people. But these have a little twist to them. Nothing square. And you can see some of the repair methods of days gone by, drywall screws and little angle brackets and things that didn't work as well as hide glue. So this is the prototype, and the others are built and delivered. All the back splats and crowns and front legs from the old chairs are still on the chairs. But the back legs and some of this structure is all new. And making angled mortises and angled tenons has a definite challenge to it.
How many of these chairs did you do? 2?
4.
4?
Mm-hmm.
And you used part of them, the parts of the old chairs?
Well, every one of them but this one. All of the chairs had new parts plus old parts,
Okay.
except this, the prototype. And the reason I had a prototype is because I kept making parts that didn't work. Wrong angles and wrong dimensions. And it's really tough to get an angle out of a mortise like this. So what works is 100% size drawings. They're simple. You take your parts, you lay them out, and so, I mean, this is an angle from here to here, this is an angle in here, and to get those angles close, the full-size drawing allows you to extend the tenon lines so you get something you can actually measure. And then you can build a mortise box and make your mortises at an angle.
So, did you do the caning?
I didn't weave the caning, but I bought the mesh and caned. And Jim, who I made the chairs for, had some upholstery design he wanted to use, so I didn't know what he wanted on that, so I caned the prototype, because the originals were caned, and showed it to him and let him choose, and he's choosing some sort of other upholstery.
So, what did you finish this with?
The kitchen sink. First, a coat of a dark brown General Finishes water-based stain to get the black lines in the grain, and then wipe that off. Then I sprayed a trans tint concoction that I made after making a bunch of sample boards, and you leave that on for 5 minutes, and then you wipe it off. And then General Finishes water-based satin finish.
Did you spray it?
Spray it.
Okay. So, how many mortise and tenon joints are in this chair?
The first time you make them or the second time? I don't know. I never tried to count. Sorry. But 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and whatever in the hell you call those things. They're at an angle, and the angle is 10 degrees from this. So a block of wood with a 10-degree angle on it, then you can run it through the bandsaw. Pardon me? So lots of radius cuts too.
I have been told that only 5% of woodworkers ever attempt to build a chair.
Is that the dumbest 5%?
Yeah, I've been there.
I knew you'd make chairs too. So.
Okay, any questions about this?
Forever. Off and on for a couple of months, and sometimes it was reaching a frustration level that you needed to get away from, and then other times it was life got in the way.
So whatever inspired you to take on a project like this? Now, I mean, I'm serious about that. This is a master woodworker type of approach.
Or beginner. Maybe a little bit beyond beginner, but not a lot. It just sounded like something fun to try and do. I think it's something that most of us here could take the basics that we've got from the educational system the Guild provides and extend that into things like this. I did another little project for a past client. His daughter bought an old house in Waldo, and had the commercial style mortise locks, but a couple of different butchers had used, I think, a hand axe to put them in. And the door was a beautiful door with beveled glass in it, so I thought it was worth saving. And he asked me if there's anybody that the Woodworkers Guild that could fix it, and I said, well, I probably could. And so cut big blocks and slid tenons in and glued them, and then made proper mortises.
Here he is, ladies, and Mr. Fix-It.
No, it's just a good basic woodworking.
Okay. Yeah, I appreciate that, for sure. All right, any more questions? Thanks, Tim. Nice job. Okay, who's next?
I made this sleigh probably 10, 15 years ago, and I probably made over a dozen of them and gave them away for Christmas presents. Every Christmas we get it out and we fill it with miniature little presents and set it next to the Christmas tree. It's made out of red oak and stain and lacquer.
So have you talked to this guy right here and learned how to make the reindeer or horses that you learned to pull this thing?
I haven't tried that yet, no.
Okay. So did you put a finish on this?
Yeah, it's lacquer and the stain, Minwax stain.
So you said you made a number of these?
More than a dozen, I think.
What'd you do with them?
Gave them away for Christmas presents.
Okay. So have you done any more things like this since you did this one or the other 12?
No, this is the last.
So are you a scroll sawer by woodworking experience?
I've dabbled in it. I've dabbled in wood carving, and I've dabbled in CNC.
Okay, so is this scroll saw or CNC?
Scroll saw.
Okay. Do you remember how many times you had to change the blade?
I don't. So,
That's pretty intricate. Wow. You going to put this up for raffle?
no.
Okay. Sorry, Dwayne. Any questions about this?
Wouldn't that be easier with the CNC machine now?
Question was, wouldn't that be easier to CNC?
No, you couldn't get into the corners with CNC. In the same way, when I do wood carving, you can't do undercutting with the CNC. So doing it by hand is better than CNC.
Good job. Any other questions? That's really intricate. Thanks for bringing that. Okay. Tom, you want to bring yours? Can you pick that up on the camera? Oh, I guess you can. No, that works. Here.
Is a newel post. My wife and I are restoring a craftsman house, and we needed railing to go up and down the stairs. So I saw a picture in a magazine that I really liked and tried to make it from the picture, which I've heard other people talk about doing, and now I understand why it's so aggravating. I made a full-size mock-up just out of dimensional lumber just to kind of get a feel for whether I could do it or not, and came out okay, looked good, and we put it in place, and it was about 9 inches too short. So I was glad. All the time I was making it, I thought, I'm wasting my time. Boy, am I glad I made that mock-up out of cheap lumber. So this one is the right size. And it's just made out of red oak. It's not finished yet. We're going to finish it same as the floor when we have the floors done, and then put Odie's oil on it to give it a little protection.
Okay, so this is going up to upper stairs,
Yes, sir.
and do you know where you're going to tie the railing in?
Yeah, it'll go into one of the flats
Okay.
going up.
Have you got the railing made?
No.
Is that on the agenda?
No, I'm buying that.
Oh. So, how are you going to fasten the bottom?
I'm working with a contractor, and he has a system. Well, so this comes off.
Ah, hiding place.
Yeah. Where'd Craig go? He always, whenever anybody brings a piece that has a hiding place, Craig always asks, "What are you going to hide in there?" So I was going to tell Craig, well, never mind. So it's hollow, so it'll go over. Hold the microphone. Oh, sorry. It'll go over a 4x4 post, and the contractor has a system, a mounting system for that 4x4 post, and then this is going to just slide down over that post, and then we'll just tack it a couple of times. It isn't going to go anywhere.
You hope.
I hope.
Okay. Very good. Any questions about this project? Nice design. Thanks for bringing that in. Oh.
Well, just a smart aleck comment. You should put a little ball on top and make it a George Bailey newel top.
Suggestion was to put a ball up on the top of it.
So every time you walk by, you grab it and it comes off.
Yeah. Fix the newel post. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Dave, whatever inspired you to make a chicken?
The variety of woods.
Okay.
This here's called the Colorful Rooster. And this rooster was done by, the pattern was done by Henrietta Corbell. The types of woods in there, there's 14 different kinds. We have cardinal wood, yellow heart, sycamore, maple, fiddleback maple, sapelli, holly, pecan, wingy, cherry, babinga, honey locust, lacewood, and purple heart. So
is that all?
That's it. So they're all basically the same thickness, but they have a couple of high risers in the middle here. The chicken's more rounded up on top and everything, and the tail feathers. It was a fun project to do.
Did you just do this recently?
No, I did this a couple of years ago, and
This was before you went to work.
yeah.
Okay.
That was 10 years ago. No, I did this a couple of years ago. The thing about it is this has 83 pieces, and it's only 13 by 11. So the glue up is the hardest part. You have 20 minutes or 40 minutes max. I did a dry run on glue up, took me 10 minutes. Great, got this down, set a timer, right? I glued it up, it took me 40 minutes. But it was good. I didn't press down hard, but I learned my technique.
What did you use for glue?
Type on original.
Okay.
So, but then yeah, there's people who've seen some of my demos know how I trace it on the pattern on the backer, things of that sort, number it so everything's ready to go. Everything has a spot to go on it. It's good to go. The finish on these are orange shellac and blonde shellac. Blonde shellac was used on the lighter color woods, and orange shellac was used on the color woods. Then it has 2 coats of satin finish or satin varnish on it by Old Masters. And then it has wax on top of that. The light color woods have clear wax, and the colored woods have Indian sand tree wax. It's a nice red color, like almost like the maroon of these chairs. They don't make it anymore, but they do make a mahogany something. I don't know what that looks like, so it could be the same one. They just changed the name. But I really like the satin finish and the wax. Just
What are you going to do with
shine.
this?
It's going to go in the kitchen. So when I cook chicken, it's like, yeah, I got a good recipe for that guy.
You need to
I'll
make
saute them, grill them, broil them.
I got a deal for you for your next project.
I think I know where this is going. You're going on a hunting trip?
Yeah, you need to make a pheasant. Seriously.
No, I agree.
Okay.
I'll try. I've always wanted to do one.
All right, you're on.
All right. Any questions from the group? Yes.
Why is the glue up so sensitive? Can't you just get one piece in and let it?
Dave, repeat the question.
The question was, why is the glue up so difficult? Can you just put one piece in? You once you put it in there and it's set, you can't move it. So it's just 83 pieces in a small area. If this sets and you're off after you cut your background out, you got to come up with a different way so you don't see the backer, because the backer has a black dye on the outside of it, so when it's against the wall, you don't see the Baltic birch behind it. But for me, it's the glue up's the most difficult part.
So you cut the background out before you glued it up.
Yes, and then I
So
put carbon
your
paper
glue
on
up
it.
had
And I
to fit
traced
the background.
right, 1/8 inch shorter, and I traced all the numbers and the whole line, everything on it, so I know exactly where it goes. So one less thing to worry about.
Good. Any more questions? That's the shortest. Whoa.
Go ahead. Almost.
You know, a pheasant is a Chinese import.
The comment was the pheasant is a Chinese import.
Native to South Dakota.
Hey, that's why he shoots them.
Leaving tomorrow to go back.
I'm going in December. So.
All right.
All right. Thanks, Jim.
Sure. Okay. This looks interesting.
Yeah, it is. It's my project.
Oh, yeah? This is yours?
Yeah.
Awesome. I don't think I've ever seen you up here with a project before.
I've done a couple, but not. Unfortunately, I got this one, so.
Hi. Who are you?
I'm Lindsay. I'm one of Chris's friends.
Oh, okay.
So, many of you guys know back in July, my dad passed away. And so, Mom was talking to me, wanted me to make an urn. So, this piece of wood, the wood that this came from, was one of the last pieces he picked from Scout Camp that he was going to do a special project with. So, made the urn out of this one, out of cedar from Scout Camp, and missing the hardware on it right now. But it's going to be hinged, and on the inside it's got the Scout logos, and then down the bottom corner, Mom wanted to make a point of having the Guild logo on here, as well as candy canes and his Renaissance Festival. So made that one for my dad, and then just week ago, 2 weeks ago, her dad passed. So he was a hunter and engineer, so we made this one, and on this one, on the inside, put a piece of acrylic so he has his photo, and then the deer and the turkey on there.
Okay, so what's this one made out of?
That one is hickory, and then we put a stain on it to get it darker to match the finish of the rest of the furniture at her house.
So what was your input on this?
I had a little bit of input on how things look once he got the design kind of nailed down. My sister designed it, picked the pictures to go all the way around the box. The front is actually his logo for his business. He was a civil engineer and land surveyor, so we put his logo on the front, and then he loved deer hunting and turkey hunting, so we made sure to put those on each side of the box. And then on the top, we decided to just put his name and then his birth and death year.
So, made 2 urns this year, and actually today I got a phone call from a scouter, one of the chieftains down at Scout Camp recently passed away, and my name went around, and I'll be making another urn here in the next week or 2.
What are you going to make it out of?
Doing the same, doing out of the cedar from
red
Scout
red
Camp.
cedar?
Yep, this is cedar from the Scout Camp, milled down there, and then this was an offcut to a piece he was working on. The last piece he was working on, this is the offcut to it. So the piece that I'm making the new one out of, the Camp Ranger, went down to the lumber mill and picked out a piece for the chieftain that I'll be making the next one out of. So.
Did you ever go hunting with your dad?
Oh yeah, all the time.
Did
and
you?
I
Awesome.
worked with him, and I did all the land surveying and stuff with him too.
Oh, okay. So what did you go out and do the run the rod for the total station?
Yeah, I ran the rod, and then we switched, and I ended up running the total station
I'm a
too.
construction superintendent, so I know what that's what we're talking about.
It always looked really funny when the girl was running the total station on the
Yeah.
job site.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So like I said, Mom wanted to make a point of having the Guild logo on there and everything else, and want to bring it down to show itself.
So, what's the final destination for these pieces?
This one's going on the mantle, and I made it kind of like a rough to ready style, which I thought was appropriate. And then on both of them, we left the top deep, and we're going to put a photo album of all of our favorite photos.
Oh, okay. So
and the top.
This has a bottom.
Yeah, so the
false bottom on it.
The
okay.
ashes go in the bottom, pocket hold in, and then the bottom, basically the top of the ashes, but the bottom of the insert, and then we're going to photo album to put in there for keepsake photo album.
Awesome. Any questions about these?
No.
Yeah.
Yes, what the dimensions were. It was kind of, I'm used to building from the outside, get the outside dimensions in. With the urn, you have to make sure you have the inside dimensions so the ashes fit. So honestly, I know the inside dimensions better than I know the outside dimensions. But if you're interested, you can grab a tape measure and measure it all off and get the plans for it. So.
these are awesome remembrances. I commend you both. I'm sorry for your loss, but yeah, this is a great way for woodworkers to do to remember. I got the privilege of making my dad's turn, and
well, I happened to be over at her house, and her mom was saying wasn't sure what to do because she's like, Dad wouldn't want like a flashy, fancy thing, and I offered to make one. She's like, he would love one made out of wood, so we went with the hickory on that one.
Good. Any questions, comments? Thank you, guys. Thanks for bringing those in. That's really nice. Are there any more? Good.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for those projects. Those are great, and it's cool that we ended up with ones that were so meaningful. So I commend you all for bringing your projects in. So now we're going to take a short break, probably about 5 minutes, and then we're going to get going with Tom McLaughlin. So take a quick break, grab a soda and a cookie, and we'll meet you back here in 5.
Hello, my name is Rick Chandler, and welcome to another of the Kansas City Woodworkers Guild's ongoing series of machine safety videos. Our discussion today will cover your introduction to the safety rules and requirements of the various bandsaws owned by the Guild and how to safely operate these popular pieces
Yes, sir, we are.
Keep in mind that this video is meant to cover the safety concerns of this machine and not a complete training program for the use of the bandsaw. When in the shop, please direct any questions about using these or any other machines to the on-duty shop foreman. He or she is there to act as your main resource to help keep you safe and to provide advice and assisting you to successfully complete your project. You should always remember the most important of safety concerns is to wear OSHA-approved safety glasses with side shields at all times while in the Kansas City Woodworkers Guild shops. Your regular glasses are not approved for use when participating in any shop activity while you're at the Guild. When using any of our bandsaws, it is doubtful that the noise level would necessitate hearing protection, but if you feel more comfortable wearing earplugs or earmuffs, by all means do so. One caution on hearing protection though, Guild rules stipulate that any hearing protection may not have the ability to receive any type of broadcast music or podcasts. Failure to follow this requirement may result in losing your shop privileges. The bandsaw has a thin blade in the form of a continuous loop. It is useful for cutting curves, resawing, and cutting thick material. Before turning on the bandsaw, make sure that the blade tension lever is in the on position and that the blade tracks with the gullets tracking in the center of the tires when you rotate the wheels by hand. The teeth of the bandsaw blade should be pointing down toward the cutting surface of the saw. The blade should be 1/32 of an inch from the roller bearing guide behind the blade. There are guides both above and below the saw table, and both should be checked for proper adjustment. Side guide bearings or blocks should also be adjusted to 1/32 of an inch away from the sides of the blade and should be behind the teeth on the blade. If you aren't sure what the tolerances are or how to set them, check with the shop foreman, and they can help you the first time you're going through the process. Make sure that the upper and lower wheel guard doors are closed and latched before you turn on the bandsaw. Set the upper guide as low as possible to your workpiece without touching the wood you're going to cut. This guarantees that the blade is completely covered without room for a finger to accidentally slip under the guide. The maximum distance for the guide to be above the stock should not exceed 1/4 of an inch or as low as possible if you need to clear a fence mounted on the bandsaw. Any bystanders should be instructed to remain away from the right-hand area of the saw and not be closer than 24 inches from you while you're operating the saw. It is especially important to keep any bystanders away from the right-hand side of the bandsaw. Broken blades have a tendency to fly out to the right and may cause very serious injury to bystanders standing on the right side of the machine. To power up the bandsaw, ensure that all doors and covers are in place and latched. Then, first turn on the dust collector that attached to your saw, and once the dust collector is on, power up the bandsaw, first making sure that there are no objects touching the mounted blade. Make sure that the equipment has reached full speed before you approach the machine to begin cutting your material. Also remember, the 3-inch rule always applies. That is a 3-inch buffer on all sides of the blade. Your fingers, hands, and other body parts should never be allowed to become closer than 3 inches away from a moving part of the machine. It is also important that you not be wearing jewelry or loose clothing. If you have long hair, be sure that it's tied back so that there's no possibility of coming loose and making contact with any moving part of the machine. Never open any covers of a machine while it is running or start a machine before any and all covers have been properly secured. Keep your fingers and hands away from the path of the blade. Never use your thumbs to push your workpiece toward the blade, even if you're pushing from many inches away. Hidden voids in your material may suddenly cause the wood to jump forward through the blade at seeming lightning speed, causing serious injury or amputation. When you're cutting small or short stock, use push sticks, feather boards, or other appropriate safety devices to control the workpiece as you make your cut. Do not force a cut. Allow the blade to dictate the rate of cutting. Forcing a cut can and will probably break the blade on the bandsaw. Don't cut stock that is not flat on the bottom without holding it in an appropriate jig. As an example, when cutting cylindrical objects, you should use a V-block as we're demonstrating here. When working with long or cumbersome material, set up a roller stand to support your work as it enters and leaves the saw. It can become impossible to support these materials without the help of some kind of support system. When making cuts with the table at an angle, clamp a block to the table to keep your stock from slipping off. While resawing wood, it is okay to start your cut when standing on the in-feed side of the blade, then letting go of your workpiece, circling around the machine to the out-feed side of the table, then pulling your material through the blade. Again, make sure you are drawing the wood through the bandsaw only as fast as the saw is able to handle the cutting the stock. If you're not cutting all the way through your stock, don't back the stock away from the blade without turning the machine off first. Turn the machine off and wait for the blade to come to a complete stop before backing out of a cut. If you're making curve cuts, you should plan your cut to prevent twisting or binding on the blade. Also, plan on where you will need to use push sticks or where it may be necessary to install a fence to keep you and others safe while cutting your stock. Each blade width has a minimum radius that is able to cut. We have charts posted on or near each bandsaw that show the minimum radius that a particular blade width can cut. If the blade does break, shut the machine off and stand clear until everything stops. Once the machine is stopped, unplug the saw from its power source and immediately notify the foreman on duty. They will assist you in changing the blade and getting the machine up and running properly again. You should never stick an object into the blade to stop the machine. Let it stop on its own or use the brake if the saw has one. The bandsaw produces a very fine sawdust, and this is sometimes not all captured by the attached dust collector. Dust depositing on the floor around the machine can cause the floor to become extremely slick and creates a significant fall risk. Pay attention to this and sweep or vacuum the floor when necessary. Don't be responsible for yours or someone else's fall injury. When finished using the machine, turn off the bandsaw and wait for the blade to come to a complete stop. Turn off the dust collector, check inside the machine and vacuum out any dust. Take a few extra moments to clean up the rest of the machine and the floor around where you've been working. This is Rick Chandler for the Kansas City Woodworkers Guild. Thanks for watching and be safe.
All right, everyone, we're going to go ahead and gather back. One quick announcement. So Dwayne talked about this being the last raffle of the month. Actually, it's not exactly true because at our Christmas party, we always encourage people to bring in their handmade items and there's can have a raffle there, and people can do a silent auction to sell their items, and you can look for announcements on that. If you have questions about that, you can ask Matt. But we also want to encourage everyone to bring your spouses to the Christmas dinner. So that was another quick announcement. So
I will be getting the Sign Up Genius over to Brian this week. Hopefully by Monday, you shall see an email coming out the first of next week. It's important we get everyone to sign up as soon as possible so we can get a count for the caterers.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, now I'm really excited about our program tonight. I'm very thankful that Tom McLaughlin has agreed to give a program. I know he was planning to come here in April, which we were excited about, and he had a little bit of trouble with his truck. And anyway, we were the farthest down the list, so we had to cut his trip short, which we understand. So very excited. I know I've heard of Tom many, many years ago. I know he trained in northeastern North Carolina, which is where I'm from. So very excited about hearing from him. And without further ado, let's hand it over. Chris, take it from here.
All right, Tom, can you hear us?
Yes.
Awesome. We can hear you. We can see you. Can you see us on the front-facing camera so you can see everybody?
Yes, sir, we can.
Awesome. So, guys here at the Guild, please remember if you have any questions, we have some microphones around. Make sure you use the microphones. I'm going to ask the LC to help me out with passing those microphones around. And anyone watching online, leave your comments on the YouTube chat, and I will input them when we get a chance. So, Tom, go ahead and take it away.
All right. Well, thank you so much for inviting me to be part of your group tonight. As Cal said, we had intended to be there, and outside of the pain of replacing the transmission, not getting to spend some time with you there was the next disappointment. You weren't the lowest on the list; you were just the furthest away. Good steak and barbecue. Is that barbecue? And I know you have a good football team these days, so congratulations on that as well. All right. Well, I want to get into it. And Calvin, I said I could be open to do any kind of presentation, but Calvin suggested I tell a little bit about my story and share some things. So I'm happy to do that. And I got into woodworking. I came around to it after going through the higher education world. I got a math degree, and I actually went to seminary, and I thought I was going to go into ministry. But I realized my true calling was to be in this creative world of woodworking. And when that happened, I looked for a place to learn, to get the best quality education added on to my already growing interest in woodworking. I had played around with it for many years. So I went and checked out North Bennett Street School in Boston. And my wife, Chris, and she's behind the camera. She's AKA the camera lady, if you've seen any of our videos. Well, we decided that wasn't the best route. So it was just going to be an expensive, like college education, and you didn't know what was going to happen. We had some friends who were from North Carolina. They said, you should come down here and check out, there's a lot of woodworkers down here. And so long story short, we ended up finding one and landed in the shop of Pug Moore in eastern North Carolina, as Cal said, in Rocky Mount, North Carolina. We were living just south of there. So I had about a 3-year apprenticeship with Pug Moore. When I started working with him, he was 73 years old, and there was only one other guy remaining in the shop with him. He had kind of tried to retire at 65 or in his late 60s, and they had a shop of 7 men there for like 40 or 50 years. His father started the shop, but there were 4 full-time cabinet makers, a finishing man, and an upholsterer, and they had someone manning the antique shop. They also sold antiques. And that was a great resource for them to get patterns for the reproduction furniture shop, which never advertised at all, but they had solid work for 40, 50 years, making beautiful 18th century reproductions primarily. So I walked in on that shop when it was just Pug and myself. And a little inside story, I never knew either of my grandfathers. Both had passed away before I really got to know them. And so this is almost like, I thought of it as like a gift from God to have a man like Pug Moore. He was such a grandfather-like figure, a wonderful guy, but an extremely gifted maker and very knowledgeable about furniture making. So it couldn't have been a better situation. Anyway, let me, I do want to share. I was in my first or second year there. I remember I was over at a lathe turning some bedposts, and in walked this guy, and he was a youngish guy. I'd say he was probably in his 40s. And he was very engaging, clearly knew what he was doing about woodworking. And he came over and he was very warm, and he had some things to say about what I was doing, complimentary. And anyway, it was Ben Hobbs, Calvin's father. And I met him there. So that was over 30 years ago, almost 35 years ago. I don't know how old Calvin was at that time, but he probably just a boy, a wee lad. But anyway, had a nice time getting to know Ben there, and learned he lived out in Eastern North Carolina and never got out there, but I heard lots of great things about the courses that he taught out there. So anyway, back to Pug. Let me just show you a couple pictures. Let me see here. Sorry, I don't want anyone to see my code.
So many secrets.
All right. So there's Pug. This was the first set of chairs he was working on when I finagled my way into his shop to help him out. And this is at Hope Plantation in Windsor, North Carolina. He made an entire set of these ballroom chairs. And you can barely see the chairs there, but just you can see his smile, engaging, fun, great guy. Anyway, I used to persuade him to pose for pictures every now and then. There's me awkwardly in my new apron and him tolerating it next to a high boy with ball and claw feet. We actually made a pair of these in the shop. And he was right there whenever I needed help on anything. So it was a great opportunity. Let me show you a few things that I actually made in his shop with him. One of your presenters, I was watching the show and tell, said an interesting thing about chair making, how only it's about 5% ever try to make a chair. I hadn't heard that. But it's not surprising. Pug used to like to say, if you make a chair, you can make anything, because it's got that complexity of the angles. It has to be visually appealing from all sides. Usually there's some complex shapes to it, and it also has to be comfortable to fit the human form of all different sizes. So we were primarily making 18th century furniture. This is one of the earlier chairs I made in Pug's shop. And this was a Eastern North Carolina chair. country-like Chippendale chair. I always liked it for the little heart shape in there, and pretty straightforward Chippendale chair, but you can see it's got this angle on the back legs coming up, and then you have the angle of the seat. Let me pop this out of there. You have the angle of the joinery going into the back leg. And so there's a lot of interesting compound mortise and tenon joinery on this chair. By the way, Pug used to have a room up that he called his, well, it was his showroom, what used to be his antique room, where he would keep the extra chairs that he made. See, with many of the sets of chairs, he would make one extra and then have it up in the antique showroom to show people as a kind of a showroom model if you want this type of chair. And so he had probably a dozen different chairs that he had made over the years. They had made many more than that, but I thought, hey, that'd be a good idea. So every time I made a set of chairs, I made one extra. So I remember making this set. It was only a set of 6. And so I made a 7th. And usually I was taking the worst wood. So I'd separate all my pieces, and there was always some surprise of a knot showing up or something defect that didn't make the main set. And so I would end up incorporating that into my extra chair. But I don't have a showroom. I didn't have a place to keep them. So what happened was, over the years, every set of chairs, I'd make an extra one, maybe an armchair. And so we actually have them around our dining table in the house. So we have all mismatched chairs around the dining table. It's somewhat of a showroom, although no one has ever ordered a chair from coming over for dinner. So, that was the Chippendale. And here's a Queen Anne style. I always loved this one. This one came right. It's a copy of one that Pug had in his showroom. This was also one that they sold out of Williamsburg. It's a reproduction of an old Queen Anne piece. So, like the Chippendale, challenging with some of the joinery, very sculptural and in its form. Lots of curved and rounded over surfaces, which add to the sculptural look. And then, of course, the classic cabriole leg with that kind of spoon foot and this nice knee. And that's a great, nice, comfortable chair, because it also has that curvature for your lower lumbar. Really nice comfort chair. And this was the third one. This one I made actually in my own shop in North Carolina after I had left Pug's shop. And this is a copy of one that was in Monticello, Thomas Jefferson's home there. And the original set was made by a cabinet maker named Peter Scott in Williamsburg. And it was said that it might have been a cheaper version, or for some reason, he didn't add all the little carved volutes. All these little bulbs here would have been carved more than likely with volutes and all in here. And then you can see the ear here, the way these lobes are, would have been appropriate for a shell to have been carved on each ear. But I guess what happened was the buyer just wanted a more discount version. It's not exactly the Harbor Freight version, but it is a discount version with no ball and claw, instead the straight Marlboro foot. So that was my training in North Carolina. I had a lot of great times, lots of experience. I loved actually 18th century furniture and learned so much from it. I often think of it as learning furniture making. It's almost like the classical music of the furniture making world. So if you want to go off later on and write your own songs and sing your own tune, that's a great foundation to have that classical experience. So that's actually what happened. I moved when, well, my wife, we had all three children were born in North Carolina, and we moved back up to New England in after being there for almost 8 years.
Just 8 years.
And it was such a great time. It was hard to leave, but we wanted to come back up to the Northeast and be closer to family again. Now that we had the kids, and there was a lot of furniture making in this world. And the New Hampshire Furniture Masters was an enticing group to connect with. So I joined them. It's sort of like your guild, except all the members were professional furniture makers making a living on custom furniture like this. Many worked alone because it's hard to have an employee. But I, over the years, had, for at least 10 of those years, had one guy working with me to help out. But during that time in the Furniture Masters, I started to try some new things and develop some new designs on the foundation of 18th century furniture. So that was so like in my brain. I like to play around with modernizing it in some ways. And quite often that was with the use of veneer as a decorative element. So using the figure in various woods to almost paint, to almost appear like there was motion in the piece. So here's one of my earlier approaches there. I hope you can see it on the camera okay. But this is a sideboard. You can see the traditional look of it. It's just got tapered legs, but the entire piece is veneered with ribbon or quarter-sawn Cuban mahogany veneer, which is a whole long story about how I came across that, but I've still got a big, relatively good stock of it. But this is a sunburst pattern using the ribbon cut veneer. So you can see the center drawer and the two side doors have that sunburst pattern. So other than that, it doesn't have a lot of what you would typically find on a sideboard like this, a lot of embellishments like fans and, you know, the little drops and flowers and, you know, that kind of contrasting bright inlays. But rather, I'm trying to make the decorations more in just using the figure of one type of wood. And here I'm highlighting the ribbon cut or quarter-sawn figure of Cuban mahogany. I did embellish and add a few ebony details, like you see the cuff feet. That's ebony veneered. And then you can't see it, I don't think, in this picture. Well, maybe you can, sort of. The door and the drawer in the top edge has a binding of ebony, solid ebony applied. And I always love the way that shimmers, and it gives this, the appearance of like radiance, like sunbeams exploding, you know, like a sunset just over the horizon. So another version I applied it to was I tried to make a contemporary version of the old easy chairs I used to see at Pug's a lot. I never made an easy chair with Pug, but he had the frames there, you know, the old wingback chairs. So I thought, it'd be nice to make a contemporary version that was a little more stylish than the overstuffed recliners that were so common. And so I treated this one, I have wood on the side, and I used, again, that radiant pattern. But here I'm using it in combination with solid wood that's carved and kind of sculptural, the way it comes up to the armrest and has a little curve on the armrest there. And then the back of this chair had a little bright kind of combination. Again, the veneer combined with the solid wood. So then I have another version of the same chair done in Wenge. And one of the interesting little effects I enjoyed with this one was wire brushing the Wenge, which, as some of you probably have experienced, some woods have quite a distinct variation in hardness between the early and late growth rings. So when you burnish it with a wire brush, it takes out that softer growth ring. You can see now, see the sparkle of like the shellac on there? That has texture. So it's really an interesting feeling when your hand goes on there. It has all the texture of almost like a weathered wood or driftwood almost, but it's got the hardness and warmth of the wengi. Here's another use of that radiant veneer here on a desk. And again, I'm using that veneer in that way. There's a funny little story behind this desk that the woman who bought it wanted it as a surprise gift for her husband's 60th birthday. And he was kind of a rough contractor. He had done well contracting and specking houses and things like that. So she wanted to surprise him with this gift. And she had seen that other easy chair and said, could you make a desk that incorporated that? And so I said, sure. And so there it is. And on the inside, I have like some nice drawers going across. But this has a little bow front to it. And when I was making it, I was thinking, man, I hope when he gets this, he's not surprised and thinks, wow, that's more feminine a desk than I would prefer. So I didn't pitch this to him, and I never found out if he actually thought that. But I got to thinking as I look at it that these little striations, and these, by the way, are terraced slightly. Like this layer is an 1/8 inch higher than this layer, and this layer is a little higher. So this whole thing has kind of a variation in the topography. But looking at those pieces, I thought, you know, that's not feminine. That looks like muscle. I don't know if you would have bought it, but you know, without the skin on. Here's a clock there where I used that veneer in another radiant way. The client here had the works to a big old clock, and it was like a 9-foot high case. And he said, could you make me a smaller case for those workings in order to fit in the typical 8-foot ceiling? So that's what this was redesigned. And I thought it'd be nice to have a curved top instead of the big boxy top that it had that would just encircle that large face. That face is about 13 inches in diameter. So it was a large kind of round over there. And, but in making it, I decided to put that ribbon mahogany horizontal and then go right up and around so that you would have that appearance of the radiance around the clock. And I forget what I call this one, but in the
Rise and shine, probably.
It could be called Rise and Shine. In the Furniture Masters, we had to sometimes name our pieces, and if you came up with a good name, you would get more money for it. This was not sold, but I think I called it Time to Shine or something like that.
Yeah.
That first one, that sideboard, I remember calling that Mahogany Sunrise, and that sold pretty well, so it must have been a good name. All right. I'll show you a couple more, then I want to get back to some other pieces in the shop and show you a little around the shop. But this is this was a custom piece I made for a client that first they bought the table. That's a solid ball of mahogany there, and this was turned, gosh, that table was at least 5 feet in diameter. I believe that's what it was. And that top is was made from a plank of mahogany that was so wide, I was able to glue it up. You can see there's one seam there, and then just a tiny seam over there. So I was able to make the whole thing with one ribbon quarter-sawn like plank of mahogany. Back when mahogany was less than $4 a board foot. But they had that table for probably 3 years. And they said, you know, we finally figured out what kind of chairs we want. We want banquettes. we want the banquettes to encircle the table. And I sat there and I said, what's a banquet? Then I realized, oh, they're talking about like, seating in a restaurant, that kind of seat when you get the booth seat. But they wanted specifically that top ring, when all the seats were pushed in, that ring to be continuous and encircle the seat. But then you would pull them back to sit. So I thought, oh, that's an interesting high order. So what I ended up doing was just that. And so this is with all of the pieces in there. Some were single seats where it was just for one person, and some were like double little love seats. But it was made to seat 8 people comfortably when everyone was there. Now, when you're sitting there, they were actually pushed back a little from the table, so you had some gaps in there. It's pretty cool. Some got fabric on the back, and others got like that terrace, almost like an armadillo shell of that ribbon Cuban mahogany again. And the top rail was laminated around a form, and I kept the plank in order as I sawed it. I marked it so I could reassemble all those layers around the form. So when it was shaped with that large round over, you could hardly distinguish it was not a solid piece. So that was a nice experience. Sometimes things work out like that. And then this was one of the more taxing, dramatic chest on chest designs. Here I was trying to build a piece that had a seamless kind of, there were no disruption on the face with the drawer dividers. So rather than seeing dividers, you can just see those tiny little cuts. So this entire lower section, this is also a bow front section. This was all veneered prior to cutting it into pieces. So there was a sub drawer behind these bow fronts that had a thin front, and then this is an overlay. And so that when it would close, everything would be close. And this chest on chest went to Houston, and I was nervous about it going into that humid weather from the Northeast here, if it was going to expand and the drawers were going to get tight or these seams would bind. But this was all laminated and glued up with numerous layers with a very hard brittle glue. So they never said there was any problem with it. And that was over 10 years ago. So I think I can rest easy now. But it's got a combination again of the ribbon Cuban mahogany, some crotch macquarie here, and then beautiful Ambonia burl up here. Very common in the Art Deco period. Let me see if I can zoom in on it. You can see that Ambonia burl in this area and the crotch macquarie, that large like flame there. So I think I have one more. This is the bottom drawer. If we look, that bottom drawer, you can see that large piece. You're going to see this is the front of it by itself, just in the shop. So you can see the little terracing, see the layers there, that outer piece. These are all like in different layers. It's like, I had to go and add that complexity. And then this bottom little fan is carved in solid as an overlay front. And that's it for the piece I want to show you right now. But on the pictures, but I have a few others I wanted to show you here.
You want to take some questions? Is this a good time for it?
Yeah, if there are any questions, I can take those. This would be a good time. And
this point, then we can keep going.
One of the questions online, Greg wanted to know the armchair, for example, what year did you design those?
The upholstered armchairs?
I believe that's the one he's referring to.
I happen to know what year that was.
I think that was about 2005, I think. Yeah.
Wasn't that what you designed when we were in the hospital with Quinn?
No.
No? Oh, okay. I was wrong.
Well, it was. That's an old story. While I was waiting for our first child to be born,
Third.
I almost said Boston accent there. Third?
Yeah.
Okay. That was the first, but
By the time the third one came, you were relaxing and drawing furniture. First one, you weren't.
I was so comfortable in that chair. I thought, man, this is a comfortable chair. So, I was waiting and and so I started taking measurements and I got it all measured out. I thought someday I'm going to reproduce this chair. And I actually used that chair. And I believe it was 2005. So it was a while ago, or the late 2000s. So I only made three of those, 2 in mahogany and 1 in Wenge. So wasn't the big seller we had hoped. It was hard.
That's
a lot of work.
Special.
Yes.
Do you do your own upholstery work?
No, that I was just about to say, one of the challenges with selling a piece of furniture like that, like inside baseball and being doing this for a living, is that upholstery job, just that upholstery job was $2,000 for one chair. And the reason being, it was all old school springs, like tied springs. He put the old horsehair in there and the cushions. It was super comfortable and made to last for generations, made out that way. But he informed me after I had built it, he said, these solid wood sides are really hard to pull the fabric in and around. So the second one, I accommodated and tried to make some things that it would be able to pull around easier and maybe lessen the price. But no, he still charged me $2,000. But it didn't matter. He did a beautiful job. There's a lot of challenges there. I don't do my own upholstery. I did go into this upholstery shop, though. You might be interested to check out the video. I don't know how they could see that. It's a video on YouTube, and what does it call that one?
Visit with a master upholsterer or something like that.
Yeah, upholstery with a master.
The link to Chris, he can put it in the description below.
Yeah,
YouTube.
So it's just.
I think you guys want to give it to me at the end. We will get put in the descriptions. I'm going to try to look that up right now.
Okay.
I'll pull that up.
Yeah, his name is Joe Portinari, and I know when he did this work for me, he was, around 70. He's 82 now, so he was at least. Yeah, he was late 60s. But
that video is around a Queen Anne footstool that you made last year and had him upholster. So
yeah, so we thought we'd get a little video of him, and he's ended up being a big star. He's gotten a lot of views, over almost 250,000 views on that video. So good for Joe.
Yeah, good for Joe. Awesome.
So, so any other questions on that furniture? You good?
Should we go on, Chris? We missed it. Go ahead again.
When you do that chair that's got the wood sides and the kind of a scroll-like arms on it, what do you go through when you take on a design like that? You don't just sketch it. Do you cut it out of cardboard or something first to get the shape? And how do you come up with that?
Yeah, that's a good observation, because that is one of the most challenging aspects of this piece, that little arm roll there, because it comes up. There's a nice miter there. It comes up and then it actually rolls out as it's coming up. So I made a mock-up of it, but I start with a scale drawing, and then I go to a full-size drawing, and I try to capture it in 2 dimensions. So looking from the side view and then the front view, but sawing that out and getting the correct angle and twists on each side was a challenge. But very often I made a mock-up out of poplar or something inexpensive, as I heard some of you mentioning you do as well, and just worked it out and decided on how to carve that. So even, I just had originally a circle there, and then I thought, it would be nice to actually carve these little curved leaves that mirror what's going on the side. You can't see it in this, but I also did the same on the top of the chair as well.
I should say, I think I'll also give you a link, Chris, for Tom's portfolio, because this really is the best representation through a camera to an iPad to your eyes. It's
Absolutely. We can get those links up. Also in the descriptions, you guys have been tagged. I'm going to show real quick on our screen here. Pulling up on the screen right now is your guys' YouTube channel, and right here, this first one is the upholstery video.
Great. Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, we got lots of videos on YouTube, and you can see all the furniture too on our website. We go by epicwoodworking.com. It's easier.
Yeah, we should also invite you, if you all don't know, on Thursday nights at 7:30, we do a free live stream every week, 30 minutes. And we've been doing that for almost 5 years now. So there's well over 200 episodes at our YouTube channel, all free, tons and tons of content.
Shop Night Live. I'm showing your website right now. So
Great. Yep.
Yeah.
Where it's a little goofy, but it's fun and lots of really great tricks and tips.
All right. Let me show you a few more pieces. Some of you may know that I had the pleasure of, I guested on a PBS show called Rough Cut with Tommy Mack initially. And I was guested on that show like 5 different times. And after he quit the show after 7 years, I had the great fortune. They asked if I would continue as the new host. So I did that. And it only lasted 1 season because the show got sued for the previous name. So it got a little messy for a year and a half in the court. But regardless, it was a great experience. And they're actually still talking to this day about getting it going again. But now it's called Classic Woodworking. And you can look up that season if you have Amazon Prime. You can check it out there. And there's a bunch of other ways too.
There's also some PBS stations that are still showing it. Create
it's on Create TV, yeah. But anyway, I want to show you, I designed this chair actually, since we're in the theme of chairs. And if you wanted to try a chair, this is a great one to start with because it's simplified as far as not having more of the complicated curvature, but it's in craftsman style. So it's got more linear, flatter surfaces, but the back leg is very similar to a Chippendale chair. And the back legs are also parallel, but this one I actually designed and made on that season. It also, I believe this one was in Fine Woodworking, right?
Yep.
Yeah, this is in Fine Woodworking too. But this one was one of the pieces we made full-size drawings of, and we do full in-depth videos that are way better than what you see on a TV show. Like on TV, I have to build this in 25 minutes. It's pretty hard to do. And so a lot of things are skipped over or glossed over, and you'd never be able to build the thing from that. But in our video course, I show you just how I wish, and I did have someone show me, like the way Pug shared with me. I share all the methods and approaches to chair making. So this is a great foundational chair. If you want to dive in and try it, it's a great one. And actually, Joe Portinari posted this little demo to show what he had on the inside. This is a more modern way of doing it without the horsehair, but instead using a 2-inch like medium density foam, the webbing over the frame, and then we had leather on there. So that was just to show how this particular chair, this is a little easier seat to upholster because it just sits on top of the rails and it gets screwed from underneath. All the rest I showed you were slip seats that slip into a recess, like a rabbeted edge here, and it goes in. And then
mention before you go on, Tom, that the next 4 projects we have done online courses with. So those of you, the 2 people that won the raffle, these are 4 of our, we have now 24 courses up there, I think, that you can choose from.
Yeah. And these were born out of the, this is another one that was born out of that season on the show. And, I actually drew some inspiration from that easy chair to make one of this was only my second outdoor piece of furniture, but a classic Adirondack style piece. Instead of having the arms go flat, let me take a seat. I haven't sat in this for a while. Oh, it's great. But instead of having that arm go flat, like some of the Adirondacks, your arms would be up like this, and they would have those big, bulky arms. I wanted something a little more stylish, so I sloped the arm like this, and so it would conform a little, and added this curved side rail, and the slats are into a slot in the curved rail. And then the back has a curve this way, and then from the side, you can see this curvature for the nice lower lumbar support. Very comfortable chair. This one ended up on the cover of Fine Woodworking. If you get Fine Woodworking, you may have seen it a few years ago. But that's a great project. A little challenging, but nice. And that's in Cypress, so it would weather well. This is probably the class I taught the most in our shop. This space actually we've hosted many classes where people come in person, but it's been harder to do, of course, with the whole pandemic and everything. We just started those again this past summer, and next year we probably won't be doing them as much because we have other plans, but this has probably been by far the most popular class, the good old shaker end table with a drawer. And because it was a great kind of beginner intermediate class, we would first build the base without the top on it. So you have all this mortise and tenon joinery, and then there's a twin tenon in here, and then this top divider is dovetailed into the top of the leg, which you can't see because the top is on there. But everyone cuts that dovetail. That one on the top of the leg is the first hand-cut dovetail. And then everyone dovetails their own drawer, hand cut. And that's quite the adventure. Hard one to get done in 5 days, but we somehow did it or got pretty darn close. But you know what? Instead of coming to class, this is another one that we actually got on video. So if that's a good one, if you are interested in trying your hand at it.
We also have that one without the drawer. So it's a
that's even more basic
project.
In a class. Yeah.
Beginner project for folks.
Check this one out. This one we just did. This was a more modern, what do we call this one?
Bow front end table.
Yeah, you can see it's not finished. I'm putting the ribbon Cuban mahogany around the edge, but this one features that detail that I showed you on those slides. Here's that sunburst with the Cuban mahogany. This one's all white pine. Traditional drawer bottom and drawer sides and dovetailed. And then I put that little bead of ebony binding edge around the edge. And this has the bow front. So we actually use this table as our platform for our presentations last spring when we spent a whole day with a guild, say like yours. I went over all the aspects of making a bow front table. So a lot of
on that trip when we were supposed to come to you guys.
Yeah, we weren't going to do this because we were just going to be there for the night. But I talked about, making tapered curved legs like this. So it was a more contemporary shape. And then it had pillowing. There's a curved side there, making the form for the drawer front. And that's a laminated front. And then sawing the curve and veneering these sides and adding the line. So there's a lot there. Covered a lot of ground and had a good time with that. But I've got to finish up this table and get that veneer on there. And then we'll have a little epilogue to that.
Yeah, boy, the finish is going to look nice on that top.
Yeah, it should be nice. But just to give you a quick look around the shop, it's a working shop. I'm out here always making furniture, but since we shifted more to our focus being on passing on the craft and teaching online and all that, it almost feels like we're always just moving things around to accommodate the video production. So the space in here I slide that bandsaw in a lot when I want to do something right by the table saw. And I usually prep the materials before the course. So a lot of the action takes place at the bench and right in this circle here. But over here, I have a nice Felder slider. And I had no intention of buying a slider, but Felder became the prime sponsor of that Classic Woodworking PBS show. So they wanted to put some of their machines in the shop. So I said, oh, all right, you can put that in.
Well, make
But this is an unbelievable crosscut saw. You know, I use it a lot for crosscut. I haven't really tapped into all the virtues of it, mainly because I'm usually trying to show on a more traditional cabinet saw. So I have, now I just picked up this saw stop and put it in probably, 6 months ago? Maybe a little more than that.
Longer than that, yeah.
But I used to have the old Powermatic 66 for like 30 years. I got that when I was working with Pug. But the saw stop is nice because you have that safety feature. And we had a class recently. It was reassuring to know no one was going to blemish the hot dog. Oh, then I have over here, this is an SCM joiner planer, also the Minimax. So it converts. It's the 300 millimeters, so it's almost a 12-inch joiner. And then this table flips up, and you can run it as a planer. So the same width. It's pretty sweet. It's got these quick change blades that I love. And then, the Felder bandsaw, the 510. That's pretty awesome for resawing. I use it. I usually keep a bigger blade on that. Now I've got a 1-inch. I was cutting some apple wood that I just got from the local orchard. They're cutting down a bunch of apple trees. So I thought, I'm going to try this. It looks pretty interesting. So if you get on the Shop Night Live, I think not this week, but next week, I'm going to talk about some Christmas gifts I'm trying to make out of that apple wood. So that'll be fun. We'll see if that works out. I may even try to dry some in the oven, because it's really wet right now. I just cut it.
Our oven?
Yeah, it's going to be like baking apple pie.
That'll be a new one.
A little different. Then I've got my router table over here.
It's like show and tell.
A small Inca bandsaw. This was my first bandsaw, and that has been with me over 30 years. And love that thing. Just a little 10-inch Inca bandsaw. And then I've got the what is this? The Supermax 1632 sander. Some of you like that. But then back there, I've got an old. Oh, check this out. You guys will like this because you just saw this with your football team. This was a fun little project. I tried to test myself to see if I could make a Super Bowl trophy, and laminated these three
We
sides.
used to see it around here, but I'm not kidding.
Yeah, we got to see it almost every year, as fans of the Patriots. But it's your turn now. I understand. All right, so back here, I just keep the lathe. I'm actually going to be moving that. And that's my old bandsaw I had before the Felder had to come in. So you can see that round table back there. That was one of our courses probably about 4 months ago, not even. And I designed that table base kind of craftsman-like, but works very well. And then over here, I have some tenoners, and I've got the multi-router back in there, which I'll be using more. But the reason I use that traditional cabinet saw is because that's what most people have in American shops. So one of these days, I'll be featuring more uses of the slider for those who have it. And this, I'll just wrap it up with this. This is our current project right now. This is we're calling it the Classic Round Chair, but it's actually inspired by Hans Wegner's classic chair.
While you're looking that up, we should explain. So we do these online courses for folks so that they have step-by-step instruction. One day at a time
Yeah.
of how to build these projects. And we've started with simpler stuff and now we're getting into more complex.
Yeah, so this is a more complex chair. So we talked about chairs. This is probably the most challenging in some ways. Now, this is not the final version. This was a version that I made way back on the PBS show when I was a guest, but I've changed it since. And I did have slats in the back for that episode, but I've changed it a little bit to be a little more like the Hans Wegner. So see, this is the famous Hans Wegner classic chair or round chair, some people called it the chair, because some people consider it the greatest chair design ever because of the minimal essence of it. It flows beautifully. You can look it up online and see all the different photos of it. It's pretty sweet. But I didn't go with the turned straight legs and the cane seat. This is actually going to get an upholstered seat. And we have these sawn kind of curved legs that sweeps forward from this view. And then the back leg sweeps out, similar to a Chippendale chair. But it's a challenge because this seat rail is actually laminated. So here's the seat rail in the course we're doing right now, which, by the way, those courses, we record them live. So you're able to ask questions and then they're archived to go back to. So this is all laminated with layers and it's solid cherry now. So that's kind of the backbone of this chair. It becomes that laminated rail and the back legs. We have like a cross lap joint into it and then mortise and tenons here. And then the crest rail, this is the most challenging artful piece here. I thought about a lot of different ways to do it. Should we just laminate it? But that presented too many issues. So it's actually stack laminated and brick laid. So every layer is shifted a little bit. I made this mock-up in white pine to reshape, to work on reshaping the arm. So the new arm, these are not shaped, but I have an original mock-up that has a shape. It's back there, but this is going to be more sculptural, a little more like the Wagner piece, but not exactly. So it should be nice and comfy.
In progress.
I'm going to have this nice arm sweep here. And we had the pleasure, I'll finish with this, of just last week, we visited our son out in Southern California, and we went by the Sam Malouf shop, and we started doing these things. I love this. I mean, I love sharing the craft, but there's another aspect. We're going to like great makers or museums and seeing great pieces, places. And we got to visit the Sam Malouf shop and spent quite a time with Mike Johnson, who carrying on the legacy of making the Malouf pieces. He was a longtime apprentice with Sam Malouf. He started with him in 1981, and Sam Malouf passed away in 2009. So it was so much fun. We hit it off. We had kind of a similar experience. It was interesting to find that both Sam Malouf and Pug Mole were born in 1916. They were
amazing,
very similar in age. And anyway, it was so great to be there and look at his method for sculpting. It gave me new inspiration for how I'm going to sculpt this round chair and finish it up. But just to see the drawings, this is what the top view drawing of this looks like. All of our drawings are full size. So you can see this is that top view of the top rail, and you're seeing the legs here. So you're working with a round chair. It's a lot more complex. You really have to rely on your drawing more so than even like that Craftsman chair over there. You still rely on it in many cases, but so that's where we're at right now. This is what we're into right now. We've got session 5 is tomorrow night, I guess, right? So
yeah, and we shifted a little bit last year to trying to provide more courses in more frequency because we have a membership community that we really want to serve and a paying community that we want to be frequently offering content to. So
Yeah, so are there any other questions?
Yeah, Chris, any more?
Is it time? I'm done, Mike.
Any question? Jim's got one over there. We got Pink.
How do you do mortise and tenon joints?
Oh, great question. Most often I use a hollow chisel mortiser when I have that opportunity. However, I like on a piece like this, I made a jig to plunge route into the ends here. So that's a floating tenon we're using for this one because it's into a curved piece. But the vast majority where I have the opportunity, I'm going to use a traditional mortise and tenon. Like this is the front rail to that chair. And I have a jig that I use on the table saw to cut the cheeks of the tenons, a tenoning jig, and it's fits right over the fence. Probably many of you have seen or used them. But we also have a how to make that, and that's up on YouTube. You can check it out if you want to make that. In fact, our last Shop Night Live, I did my 4 favorite jigs, and I showed, that was one of them, the tenoning jig. Actually, we started off with that. And we have links to all of those to make them if you're interested in making that. And those are all up on YouTube right now, available. So that's how I make them.
But you do a mixture of hand tools and...
Yeah, once in a while we'll hand cut them where we need to. But yeah, I'm usually using the mortise and the hollow chisel mortiser. And I try to use things that are affordable and most reasonable methods for most people who are going to be getting into it. So,
Question from YouTube. Are your drawings done with pencil or on CAD?
they are hand drawn. So I hand draw them. Also often make patterns. A lot of times I'm tracing my exact patterns because many of the curves that I use, they're not symmetrical. You know, I tried learning SketchUp, and as I got into it, I was realizing it was too much trouble. I felt like I was losing something in the translation to the software especially when coming to making custom curves. I couldn't control them and as well. So I actually use what I use many times when I'm working in the shop is full-size drawings. Of course, I add a lot more detail to them. So those drawings were all hand-drawn in ink, and then we have them printed at actual size on 36 by 48 paper. Most of the projects require like 2 pages. So you can make your templates right off of those. And I just like working at full size. So if you did the course and you got those drawings, you're working with the same drawings that I'm showing you on. So it's easy to translate it.
Yeah. Anything else?
Anybody else? Tom and Chris, that was great for you guys to take the time with us.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Great to see your work. As a longtime woodworker, I've seen a lot of those pieces on Fine Woodworking and stuff, so it's kind of nice to hear you talk about making them.
Oh, thank you.
Hopefully, I know there may be opportunities in the future for us to collaborate with the guild, so I'm sure we'll be in touch. But usually we give you a Kansas City Woodworkers Guild mug if you're here in person. So maybe we'll have to figure out how to get you one of those. So
oh yeah, I'd love that.
On behalf of the guild, thank you so much for your time, and we really appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much. We have a great time being here. We really just want to be a resource to individuals and great guilds like you. You guys are amazing. You've got probably one of the most impressive guilds we didn't get to see. But the one here in New Hampshire has about 750 members. And I know you got that beat. And I heard about all the charitable things you do. So kudos to you.
Yes.
If we can be a resource, we'd love to be. But so stay in touch.
We will do that. All right.
All right.
Thanks so much,
All right,
Chris, for
Callie.
your efforts.
Goodbye, everybody.
Chris,
Everybody.
Chris, Tom, if you want to hang on just for a second for me.
Sure.
All right, people, thank you so much. And